Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight, brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing, the earth-friendly publisher with books for both adults and children, in a wide variety of genres, available in paperback and hardcover, as ebooks, and with some audiobooks as well. In the Spotlight is a wide-ranging weekly interview show with authors, entrepreneurs, professionals, and other experts. Your host is Cynthia McGregor. Opinions and views expressed by the guests or hosts on this show do not necessarily reflect the opinions and views of the creator, Crimson Cloak Radio, the network, the hosts, or sponsors. And now, here's Cynthia.
Thank you, Carly McCracken, and welcome everyone to another edition of In the Spotlight. My first guest this week is Wolf O'Rourke, special author in charge and transmedia storyteller. Wolf O'Rourke had delusions of protecting extraterrestrial life forms for MIB before he looked into a neuralizer without shades. Now he mines his implanted memories of centuries in cybersecurity, politics, and finance to create thrilling stories pitting quirky characters with high-tech gadgets against evil villains with vile weapons. And what is he here to talk about? Hot pink hair can't hide you from high-tech hitmen. A timid and lonely 16-year-old girl hides from bullying in her dream world of dashing master spy dolls, blue-haired Katy Perry Barbies, and pink Hello Kitty dresses, and she hacks her way across the net behind the avatar of a 6'4" hunk with the handle Cowabunga Dude. Cyber Piracy is the first thrilling adventure in Wolf's cyber series, where a hacker girl sings and dances past discrimination, prejudice, and fear to save her country and herself. Welcome, Wolf.
Hello, Cynthia.
Glad to have you here. Shall we get right to the questions? What is Sesame Street for adults?
Basically, everybody probably knows Sesame Street. It uses what we now call transmedia, different media types, music, stories, video.
Ignore that. Somebody's calling on my phone and it's ringing in the...
So it uses different media types, video, music, stories, to edutain, to convey information and educate kids in an emotional and entertaining manner so they remember what they learned. And the same works with adults. As they say nowadays, the new marketing is storytelling. So that's what I basically do.
And what inspired you to write Cyberspiracy?
So Cyberspiracy came out of a research article that if you actually presented people with search results, say from Google, where you mix in enough valid results with a portion of phony results, people would believe the phony results. So you could basically manipulate them through the search engine results.
But a girly, pink-haired heroine as a main protagonist for a thriller?
Well, obviously, this kind of story requires pretty much a hacker to get into the search engine. And if you look at what is out there, every male hacker cliche has been done, down to the blind hacker with a Burrell Taylor type. So that's kind of passe. Even if you look at women hackers, the stereotypes out there like really more masculine, the nerd, the goth, and that's not the real world. I went to school with women, cute, had ponytails, loved dresses, and like pink and techniques.
Haven't real life politics obsoleted cyberspiracy?
Uh, to a certain degree, but if you look at real life stories are often more interesting than even fiction, and this just basically validates the theory.
Why is manipulating a corporate search engine, the main plot in cyberspiracy, important to the average person?
Because it could actually happen and it may be really happening. Facebook is manipulating us. There's accusations against Google that they're manipulating us. And if somebody could break into these companies and use those tools for nefarious purposes, that could affect us all.
Why should the average person care about cybersecurity?
Because it will cost you one way or another. Our lives depend so much on technology. Just imagine what would happen if the ATM no longer works. For that matter, if electricity no longer works. And we've had spectacular failures. Target, Heartland, Sony. Sony basically was attacked by North Korea. It was basically a cyber war. So we are all affected if somebody else doesn't take care of cybersecurity, and we are of course affected if we don't take care of cybersecurity.
Can you see the type of election manipulation shown in cyberspiracy succeeding in real life?
Why not? An organization with enough money and technical skill can find a way. North Korea proved that.
Have you hacked anything interesting?
It depends on what the meaning of the word interesting is.
Well, what have you hacked?
Well, I probably can't admit to that.
Are you a white hat hacker or a black hat hacker?
Well, since I actually have implanted memories of cybersecurity, I was on the other side. So any hacks I did were basically for corporate purposes. I defended against them. So technically, I'd be a white hat.
Is cyberspiracy a result of your experiences, research, or expertise?
Obviously, if I successfully hacked the last election, I would never admit to that either. But based on my work experience and research, the methods used in the story can succeed.
What are the key takeaways you hope readers or viewers find in cyberspiracy?
For society, obviously, the higher the stakes associated with a particular technology, the more effort we have to put into securing it. And that particularly affects our electrical grid, which is an upcoming story later. But for individuals, I hope the story shows that women, that they can succeed in this male-dominated field. And lastly, bullying is not okay, whether in the tech field or elsewhere.
What kind of challenges does hacking pose for filmmakers?
A professional note given me by screenplay readers describes it well. Hacking works in books, where writers can weave in technical details and give the reader time to digest them. In film, visually showing such information is difficult and can easily destroy the pacing.
How will reading or watching cyberspiracy change the minds or hearts of the audience?
If gender becomes more accepting, if all genders become more accepted in the tech world, I would have gotten my point across. We have 25% or less women in tech fields, and they're over 50% of the population. That's where the number should really be.
Is bullying and discrimination against women in the tech world real, or is it just one of those things where women haven't gotten into it of their own volition or something?
I mean, it's absolutely real, but it's often hidden until you had companies laying out what the differences in pay between men and women, which is often kept secret. How would you even know that there is bias? And you can argue whether in an interview is there bias or not if you have nothing to compare it to. But if you just look at the public cases, like a Victoria's Secret model getting viciously attacked because she had the audacity to claim that she's actually a good programmer when she has thousands of responses on a bulletin board, that people just don't check. And that was 2018, the Google memo fiasco, where this Google employee claimed that women are genetically inferior in tech to men, when there's basically no statistical basis for that. That just shows that there is a segment of the population, let's not say everybody, but there's a segment of the population that really believes that women are not capable, or at least inferior in tech to men. And that's just not borne out by the facts.
Why are bullying and sexism so important to you personally?
1/3 of my engineering class was female, so I'm used to that. But in wider society, stereotypes and discrimination persist, and it sends devastating messages to women in tech, which I experienced firsthand. A girly classmate who could have been the model for a cowabunga in cyberspiracy, she we had this weed out course in junior year, where if you didn't pass, you basically flunked out of your major. And it happened to be physical chemistry, possibly because it's a very abstract subject. It's difficult to understand. And 5 weeks before the final, she comes to me and asks me, "Can you tutor me? Because I need to pass this class." And it kind of was not stated, but it came through in her words, that basically this idea that, you're a guy, you understand tech. Can you explain it to me in a way that a woman can understand? And it basically, this could have cost her career. And I had to burst her bubble. I didn't understand the material any better, but I didn't care. I interned as an engineer. I knew this material really didn't matter for most engineers. It was basically a class she had to pass, and that's how she had to approach it. The objective was to pass the class. And so basically, you have to keep in mind how an exam in these fields really is. It's not real life. You have 2 hours to answer 8 questions. That's 15 minutes per question. What can you possibly do in 15 minutes? It's basically, they obfuscate the question. It's an English problem, not an engineering problem. She had to understand the question, figure out the correct formula, and then do the math right, which she had been doing for 3 years. She's a junior. She has been doing this. She just didn't believe she could. So we did test prep. We didn't study the material. We studied test questions. How do you quickly realize what the question is? How do you answer? How do you figure out the formula? And then do the math, because you still have to do it quickly. And when the professor handed back the exams, he went on and on and on about this one student that was so improved. And even though her grade would have averaged out to a C, which is what you get if you average an A and an F, he actually gave her a B in class because she was so improved. So just because she got rid of this mindset that she could do this, and she got an A on her own accord. I didn't sit there next to her and help her with it. She could do it all along. She just didn't believe. So sending these messages to women is just it's devastating on so many levels for them personally and in society as a whole.
What risks do you see in the behavior shown in the book of what some call the iGen?
So many young people exhibit these behaviors. I didn't just make this up. They hide at home, avoid social interactions, live in a virtual world. And these diminished social skills and the lack of real-world experience, it will make it harder for them to succeed at work or in life. So I hope they learn from the story that you need to go out there. You need to work with people. You need to take risks, take chances.
How difficult was it to bring these kinds of ideas onto the screen?
It's really hard. The complex messaging that stems from this character behavior, it makes the story really difficult to pitch to producers. In addition, male readers often couldn't understand cowabunga. Feedback from female fans reminded me why the story mattered and motivated me to reach mass audiences, which as many different media as possible. That's the concept behind transmedia.
Which authors impacted you most, Wolf?
Those who succeeded in bringing diversity to their stories. Karl May to a certain degree, Tolkien, Michael Crichton, and also Susan Collins.
And which filmmakers impacted you most?
I'm most impressed by those who can make learning fun, which is what I do. So Jim Henson and Ken Burns, for example.
Well, now that people have read your book and or seen your movie, what do you hope they'll do next?
Study computer science or computer engineering and pursue a career in tech. It's an exciting future.
Can writers really get grants for their writing?
They can, if they focus on what grant-giving organizations care about.
What do funding organizations look for in grant applications?
Unless the art is unique and exceptional, so you stand out from the sea of artists that are looking for funding. Grant-giving organizations care about factors beyond the artistry, such as community impact. If you look at the Nevada Arts Council, it is in the grant application. You have to answer questions about community impact. That's what they really care about. Cyberspiracy didn't win a grant for its writing, even though many of my readers praised the writing. No, don't get me wrong. It scored highly on an objective basis. Objective analysis by software like Grammarly and AutoCrit, but the grant panel singled out the vision statement explaining how the themes embodied in the story aimed to encourage girls to enter the tech field, i.e. social impact. And of course, there's girls in Nevada, there's girls everywhere, so the impact is potentially huge, and that is what they funded.
Now, your website where people can buy your book is www.cyberspiracy, that's cyberspiracy.com/story. Is that correct?
Yes, and like
Now,
you had it at the beginning, it's cyber piracy with an S in it.
What if they want to see the movie? Where would they go?
I'm trying to get funding for the movie right now. The book is out. You can get it at Amazon. You can get it at Barnes and Nobles. It's available wide. Apple iBooks everywhere, but Google Play at the moment. There's some issues with that. and it's available in ebook format and in paper format. And as that book gets traction, I hope to be able to then raise funding for the movie. It might be a crowdfunding effort. It may be actual production firm behind it, but the movie is probably at least 2 years away.
Uh-huh. Now, you have a college experience that motivated the story and is uplifting. Will you share that with us?
That's basically that classmate that I talked about, how basically had to overcome her false beliefs, which are pushed, unfortunately, by often parents and even teachers, because they are stuck in these stereotypes that women don't do tech, especially feminine women. And that's just not the case. To give you another example, in my honors class, I mean, these are like the best students in the class. My partner was a woman, good looking, had a fiance, homely, not what you'd think as a typical engineer. She was in an honors science class, and she did really well. By the way, the valedictorian of my class, a woman, what you would call a girl next door. No, not no god, no nerd. She was just good at tech field. And if you look at the actual data from some, say, like the PISA study, which is the biggest study we have that actually looks at gender, the differences between girls and boys are insignificant. These stories just aren't true. And if we keep telling them to girls, if we keep discouraging them from entering tech, we lose a good part of the potential and a good part of our future. There are currently 1 million positions in tech that go unfilled in the US alone. The demand is there. We can't fill it. And if we're excluding half the population from the start, we will never fill it.
And Wolf, will you share a passage from your book with us? We have 6 minutes, so you can choose something a little longer than what I had indicated to you.
Okay. I'm gonna give you the opening chapter, which introduces the chapter and the themes. So, cyberspiracy. I love my room. It's safe, the way hacker girls like it. At least I think so. I don't know many hacker girls. Actually, none besides me. More precisely, I met none in real life. Online, girly profile pics, avatars, or handles prove nothing, but earn mega mean comments. Many hacker boys look down or despise us. Girls can't hack or code, so they say. Don't get me wrong. I have many hacker friends and we get along just fine. None have been to my room, Natch. Being guys, they probably find it weird and girlish. Others have don't enter signs taped to their doors. But I'm not a kid anymore. Some let my 5'1¼ and my hot pink ponytail fool them. But this year, I celebrated my sweet 16 by starting college. Virtually. MIT lets me take all the computer science courses online, thanks to my parents' generous donation. My family can't afford it. In Virginia, the Allertons go back forever. Like Jamestown forever. Don't get me started. Yes, the settlers began to leave, but the supply fleet arrived just in time. Trust me. Father told me his father's story mega million times, but I digress. My door has Hello Kitty stickers all over it. Nothing wrong with that. They're pink, cute, and tell mommy where my room is. I don't have any other visitors. Not even father. Smiley face. The room has windows. but I always keep the heavy curtains closed. Bright light wakes me up in the morning. Besides, too much snooping going on with all the cameras and stuff. I don't need anyone taking pics of my screen. Not while I'm surfing in dark places. My 3 monitors give me all the light I need. Mommy bought me a prototype laptop with fold-out panels so I can have the class notes, assignments, and an editor up at the same time. At least that's what I told her. Hacking takes center stage with multiple windows full of Python and JavaScript code to take over a website. The left screen shows social media feeds from 16 separate accounts I created. Don't want to make it too easy on the fibbies while I'm keeping up with what happens on the net. On the right, I monitor the important apps. My voice changer, streaming news, and the Katy Perry channel. #girl power. So that October day, Vice President Sarah Drummel probably again bashed her fave target, North Korea, during her campaign speech. I had mooted her to sing along to I Kissed a Girl, but Mommy interrupted me with a knock. Edith is a gorgeous Southern belle in a business suit, if you can wrap your head around that. I can see why Father wanted her on his arm, but don't underestimate Mommy. Her name's really Editor, but as head of Intercom, one of Richmond's and Virginia's leading communications companies, she'd rather not show her Italian roots. She had enough grief about her ethnic name in school. Kids are kids. But my proud granny Ita can trace her lineage all the way back to the Renaissance and insisted on keeping the names from the old country. Mommy opened the door part way. Sonia's waiting. She played on my Garfield-like addiction to her pasta casserole loaded with tomato sauce. Always happened when I sang my fave tunes while coding something mega important. Can I eat in my room? I'm in the middle of homework. As much as you love it, that computer is not your family. 5 minutes, pretty please. I know she's a softie. I'll keep it warm, baby cakes. Mommy closed the door and I could have finished the song and the program, or so I thought. My fingers flew across the keyboard, but a group chat popped up with cartoon avatars for Master Lego, DEFCON 0, and Flash M. We were as close as hackers get. That didn't mean we showed each other our real faces. Their wisecracks about my pink hair would have never ended if they talked to me at all. Fortunately, hackers are camera shy, even the white hats, the good ones that protect others from black hats. We prefer showing pics of cartoons or fantasy epics. Once video chat becomes the thing, I'll have to get a rad visual effects program. In a voice I synthesized from the movie, Leia announced, "Chat from Lego?" Yes, I named my laptop after the Star Wars princess. #MegaGirlPower. I donned my wireless headset so Leia could understand me better. Plus, no hidden microphones could eavesdrop on what anybody told me. Okay, maybe I'm paranoid, but that doesn't mean the fibbies aren't out to get us hackers. Ditto the Secret Service, or the NSA, or the IRS. Never mind cyber criminals in Russia, China, or the European Union. It's a cyber jungle out there. Vitally, the headset made me one of the boys. Answer chat.
Well, thank you very much. That's fascinating. Is that your first book, Wolf, or have you written others?
I have completed 6 novels. This is the first one that I published.
Aha. And are you working on another? Very quickly, because time is almost up. Are you working?
Yeah, of course, the sequel is in the works, which, as I mentioned earlier, will deal with hacking the electrical grid, another real-life problem, and that will hopefully come out next year.
Wolf, tell our listeners one more time where they can go to buy your book.
www.cyberspiracy.com, like cyber piracy, but with an S in it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Wolf O'Rourke. It's been a pleasure having you on. And good luck and mega sales to you. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Goodbye.
Now a word from our sponsor. The show is brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing, and Crimson Cloak Publishing proudly presents a sale, 3 books for $5. Now it's 3 books for $5, good at www.crimsoncloakpublishing.com. Be sure to use the discount code 345. That's the number 3, the word 4, F-O-R, and the number 5, 345 at checkout. Good on any ebooks that are $3.99 or less. You must still pay the sales tax. Good for the month of November of this year, so hurry up because the month is already more than half over. Okay? Now I'm going to see if I can bring on our next guest, Kevin Gven. It says something went wrong. Hold on. Let me try again. Technical difficulties, folks. Technical difficulties. Can't reach you. Okay, I have a plan B. Well, I have a plan B and a plan C. If I can't reach the guest, and it certainly looks like I can't, then I have a plan B and a plan C. Plan B is, of course, to conclude the broadcast half an hour early. But Plan C, which is a little more audacious, is to take the spotlight myself. I'm a writer. I don't know if I can talk for half an hour without somebody interviewing me, but let's try. I'm Cynthia MacGregor. I've had over 100 books published. Literally over 100. My latest with Crimson Cloak is The Year Mrs. Claus Drove the Sleigh, and it's a Christmas book for kids of Santa Claus age, telling about the year that Santa got sick and Mrs. Claus left him sleeping, tiptoed out, hitched up the sleigh. Well, she didn't hitch up the sleigh herself. She got one of his helpers to do it. And off she took, reindeer, gifts and all, down the chimneys and around the world, and back again, quicker than Santa could do it, because she didn't have trouble getting down the chimneys, because she's not as roly-poly as Santa is. She almost gets caught in one house. If you want to find out what happened, you'll have to read the book to your child. The Year Mrs. Claus Drove the Sleigh. And that's one of my several Christmas-themed books, not all of them with Crimson Cloak. I have the Heartfelt, the Special Reindeer books. There are 2 of them with Acute by Design. And we have a new one out this year, the second in the group, which is called The Boy Who Didn't Believe in Santa. And I have, with Crimson Cloak, I have another pair of books that I'm very proud of, Wisdom from a Happy Woman. But maybe you want to know a little bit about me and how I got to write over 100 books. So let me tell you, because we have half an hour to fill if the guest doesn't show up. I originally wanted to be an actress, but I had a problem in high school, a physical problem. I twitched and I made vocal noises, and I was misdiagnosed. You may recognize from the symptoms that I just described that what I have and had then is Tourette syndrome. But back when I was in high school, it wasn't as well known, and even the doctors didn't recognize what was wrong with me. They misdiagnosed me. They said it was psychosomatic. They said it was nerves. They didn't say it was Tourette syndrome. So I was the freak of Hewlett High. And when I tried out for the junior play in high school, I tried out for the lead, and they told me that I had read better than anyone else, but they couldn't take a chance with my problem, and so they gave the lead to my arch rival, and I didn't get any part at all. At that point, my dreams of starring on Broadway went down the drain. If I couldn't even get a part in the high school play, I sure wasn't going to make it on Broadway, and my long-held aspirations of acting fame evanesced, vanished, went out the door. Well, I'd always loved writing, too. I was writing from the time I could spell C-A-T, cat. I co-opted my mother's typewriter and the family bridge table and set them up in my bedroom so that I could write, and I wrote. And that was long before the high school fiasco. So when I saw that I had no future as an actress, I decided that maybe writing was in my future. But I didn't have faith in myself. I didn't have the belief in my abilities as a writer that I had in my abilities as an actress. And so I didn't immediately pursue a career in writing. I dropped out of high school in my senior year, just a few months short of graduation, because of the ridicule that I was getting for my symptoms that I still didn't know was Tourette's. In fact, I wasn't properly diagnosed till I was in my early 30s. Well, meanwhile, I took office jobs and hated it and was miserable and got married and got pregnant and had a baby and stopped working and became a full-time mom. And then I started gradually leaving my toddler, as she was then, in playgroup on an ad hoc basis and writing while I was free, alone in the apartment, and not having to keep an eye on my daughter. And I started getting published $15 articles here and there, nothing major, no big-time publication, no books. I didn't dare write a book. I didn't have enough faith in myself. But I slowly began getting more and more assignments as a writer, and a publisher who had faith in me asked me if I would edit a magazine for her. And I had done some small-time editing, and I took on the gig and started editing for her. And another publisher, after a while, who had respect for that publisher's business acumen, said, if you're good enough for her, you're good enough for me. And he hired me away from her, and I began editing for him. Well, he occasionally put out one-shot magazines. And hold on a second, we just heard from the missing author who's supposed to be in this slot. Hold on a second and let me see what he says. Hold on. No, I got a technical error message. Couldn't get through. Can you Skype me? Okay, you may be spared this monologue if I can get this fellow to Skype me, who I was having technical issues getting through to. But in the meanwhile, I'll continue talking. So I was editing for a publishing company that occasionally did one-shot magazines as opposed to ongoing. And I had an idea for a one-shot magazine called Mommy, There's Nothing to Do, which would be activities for kids that parents could keep them busy with over the Easter vacation, which was upcoming. They, however, turned the idea down, and it was too good an idea to let go of. And I decided if I couldn't do it as a magazine, I was going to do it as a book. Now, I had written one book previously, which was not quite the normal way to write a book. I had been approached by a medical company to write a book about diabetes based on information they gave me. I didn't have to know anything about diabetes myself, and it was a very unusual setup. I won't go into it all. And the book wasn't published through traditional channels. It was disseminated to doctors to offer to their patients. So it wasn't a standard book at all, and it wasn't a standard publishing contract or anything like that. So this was really my first real regular book. And I wrote it with a little help from my friends and sent it off to 5 major publishers, and one of them bit. I got a call one day in my office from Hilary Siggy, an editor at Berkeley Publishing, and she introduced herself and said, had you gone to contract with anyone else on Mommy, There's Nothing to Do? And I said, no, it's still available. Well, meanwhile, I was jumping up and down with excitement, but trying to keep my voice level, trying to sound professional, and bottom line of a long story, the book was published, and it took a year to get it out because slow grind the wheels of traditional publishing. But that was my first book, and Free Family Fun was my second, and a book that I called Great American Games, which the publishers in their infinite, quote, wisdom, unquote, retitled Totally Terrific Family Games, which didn't have to describe what was in the book, and that book flopped miserably. But I was on my way. I had 3 books, and I just kept writing. And like the Energizer Bunny, which my friends call me, I just keep going. And I've reached over 100. I lost count after 100 books. I lost count. but hold on, I've got a message, but it's not from him. So, okay, I don't know what's going on with the guest who's supposed to be on. So I'll carry on with my story. My story continues as I've written over. Oh, let me go back to my childhood. At age 9, I wrote a play. Now, it was in either 4 acts or 4 scenes. I didn't know the difference, so I didn't know which it was. But that summer, up in summer camp, the drama counselor said, "I wonder if any of you kids ever wrote a play." And my hand shot up in the air. Me, 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 me. And she said, "Can I have a copy of it?" So I wrote to my mother and told her where I'd hidden away the play, and she sent it to the camp, and the camp made copies, and the counselor cast the play. I was very disappointed that I couldn't have the lead in the play myself. I still had theatrical aspirations at age 9. This was before the fiasco in high school. And the play was put on one evening for the younger campers, and the counselors went up to the tennis courts and picked a bunch of wildflowers and threw them up on the stage and yelled, "Author, author, author." It was one of my proudest moments when I came out and picked up the flowers and took a bow. Well, many years later, I wrote a play based on that same play, but of course, a lot better written as an adult and with some experience now in playwriting. And the play was put on in New York, believe it or not, at a little theater down in Greenwich Village, and it had a respectable run of a couple of months, I guess it was, of Saturdays and Sundays for family audiences, and I was very proud. By then I had left New York and moved down here to Florida, but I flew back up to New York for the premiere of my play, and I got to see my play produced on a real honest-to-God professional stage. And I've had 10 other plays produced. I've written 11 other plays, but one of them hasn't found production anywhere yet. However, 10 others have, some for kids, mostly for adults, just like my books, which are some for kids and mostly for adults. And I just keep going. Now I do freelance writing and editing. So that includes not just book writing, but I write just about anything except grant proposals. That's a specialized form of writing that I don't know, and I won't take it on and screw it up. So when people approach me to do grant proposals, I say, "No, sorry, I don't do that." But I've done business plans, I've done ads, I've done blog posts, you name it. Hold on, there's our missing... Oh, hold on, here we go. Kevin. Kevin?
Yes.
Ah.
This is Kevin.
Good. Kevin, I tried to reach you several times, and I kept getting a technical error message.
Really?
Really?
I wonder why.
I don't know, but we have 11 minutes left, and I'd love for you to do as much as you can in the 11 minutes. Kevin, let me tell the listeners a little about you. You're originally from Holton, Maine, and went to the New England School of Broadcasting in Bangor and the University of Maine Orono Presqu'île sites. You studied writing with the Long Ridge Writers Group and Writers Boot Camp in LA, worked as a DJ for radio stations KCLA in LA, WOXO Maine in Norway, and WHOU Holton. You've been an avid comic book fan for as long as you can remember and started creating characters and writing stories about them since you were 12 years old. You've always wanted to write for comic books, but never had the proper focus to pursue your dreams until now. You don't know if you have the time or energy needed to publish and market your titles, so you're looking for a publisher at this time. Have I got it right?
That's correct.
Okay, let's move right along to some questions because we've only got 9 minutes left. When did you first start writing comics?
Well, I was writing my own stuff at 12, just goofing around, but recently I wrote the Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter series. I started that in 2010. I got novels and comic books out there. The latest comic book is Dracula Rising. You can find that on Amazon. And the artist is Rodolfo Ezequiel. And he does a great job. The story is Dracula takes a mate, but he doesn't tell her that he's Dracula. She doesn't know that she's married Dracula. And they give birth to a daughter, Dominica. Well, let me tell you, the wife is Dragana, who is a gypsy sorceress. And only the bloodline created by Dracula and Dragana, according to the Necronomicon, will activate these equality crystals, which will allow vampires to gain more power and subjugate mankind to their will. So Dracula mates with Dragana, creates Dominica, Dracula's daughter. And Dracula has since been killed by Dragana and back in hell, but Dominica's trying to resurrect him so they can complete this ritual. And Carl is called in, brings his vampire hunter friends, and they go after Dracula. And the vampires are rising. They have a big conclave meeting in Spain, and it's up to Carl and his vampire hunters to prevent the ritual and destroy Dracula once again.
Where did you get the idea for Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter?
Carl, I got the idea one night. I was watching an old Don Knotts movie called The Ghost and Mr. Chicken, and it struck me, what if Don Knotts were a vampire hunter? So it's kind of a horror comedy thing going on. And I also get inspiration from the movie Lost Boys and the original Fright Night with Roddy McDowall and Williams Ragsdale. And I went from there, and I put it all together and created this character.
Where did you get the idea for adolescent radioactive samurai platypi?
Oh, yes, that's my parody of superheroes. I always thought of doing something like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ever since the comic book Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out. So I thought, what is the strangest looking creature on the planet? And I was watching a documentary on the duck-billed platypus, and I thought anthropomorphic platypus. Because everyone's into the duck-type anthropomorphic stuff like Donald Duck, Daffy Duck, Howard the Duck. And I went from there, and I had them be a symbiote race. The symbiotes have to prevent this anomaly from destroying their planet. So 5 of them fly up with this neutron bomb, and they're going to destroy the anomaly, going to implode it. But they get caught inside the anomaly and get caught on our side of the planet and crash land on Earth. And their host bodies are dying, so they have to abandon those host bodies, and they come across the first thing they find, which is a group of duck-billed platypus. And it's a parody kind of superheroes like Fantastic Four and that type of thing.
Where do you find your artists?
I found Rodolfo on Facebook, and most of them I find on Facebook. I found Melissa Irwin, who did a couple of titles for me. I found her at Pittsburgh Comic Con. She was promoting her own trade paperback called Sakura and the Spider, and she did a couple of issues for me. The Duckbill Platypus that we talked about, and the origin of Kate Bryant.
Tell us about Dracula Rising.
Well, Carl is visited in true noir fashion one night by a mysterious lady in black, and she turns out to be Dracula's daughter, Dominica, and she takes him on this vampire hunting trip, only she drugs him and he passes out. And when he comes to, he finds that he's had blood drawn from his arm, with a needle, and he's trying to figure it all out, and a friend of his shows up, Nathan, who is an immortal time traveler, and he's the Nathan from the future, and he had to come back in time because there's been a breach in the space-time continuum, and Dominica is actually from the future. Dominica is alive in Carl's day, but she's only 4 years old. The Dominica from the future is the one that has to resurrect Dracula to complete this ritual, and he came back to warn Carl about that. And then Carl has other friends. We also include another independent creation, Jason Hell. And Jason was created by Glaister Silverback Ormsby. And he's going to put Carl in one of his comics, so I put his character in my comic. And Carl goes out with my immortal, kind of shell-shocked immortal, special needs immortal. He calls himself the Greek god Thor. And they have to go on a mission to get one of the crystals to the catacombs in Paris, where they faced Sebastian Basilis, Carl's arch nemesis.
What's your next project?
Well, we're working on Foul Blood. I've got Raphael. He's an artist that has been published professionally. He drew Evil Ernie for Chaos Comics, and he is doing Foul Blood, the origin story of Carl Vincent, kind of a noir horror mishmash of genres.
And where can our listeners buy your comics?
Well, Dracula Rising's on Amazon. Just type in Carl Vincent, Dracula Rising, Amazon, and bring it right there. And other Carl Vincent comic books are available on Indie Planet, Comixology, Comic Central, and those sites.
And have you written any regular books, typical text without pictures, or are you only into comics?
No, I have two books available in the Carl Vincent series. Last Rites, The Return of Sebastian Basilis, and Foul Blood, the origin story I wrote as a novel, which is now being adapted into a comic book. They're also available on Amazon.
Uh-huh. We have 1 minute left, and we'd actually run through the questions that you sent me. Is there anything else you'd like to say to our listeners?
Yes, I'd like to invite you to check out my YouTube channel, Comics Let's Talk, Kevin Gven. Check that out. If you like it, subscribe to it and ring the bell and stay informed. Also, the Facebook pages for Adolescent Radioactive Samurai Platypi and Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter. Check those out. You'll be kept up to date on everything that's going on in the Carl Vincent universe. If you're interested in the characters at all, just check those out. Like the Carl Vincent and Radioactive Samurai page. And what else? Oh, the YouTube channel. Once again, check out the YouTube channel, Comics Let's Talk. We talk about comic books, comic-related movies, and other good stuff relating to comic books.
Kevin, I think you need to check your Skype connection because of the problem that I had reaching you, because I had no problem reaching my first guest, and when I tried to reach you, I got a technical error message 3 times. So
Okay.
There's a problem there somewhere at your end. I don't know what it is, but you need to look into it. Kevin Gven, thank you very much for being an abbreviated guest. I'm glad you were finally able to get through to us. And best of luck with your work. And bye-bye now. Listeners, remember that the show is brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing for a wide variety of books, fiction and nonfiction, children's and adults. And remember the Crimson Cloak Publishing 3 books for $5 deal. Good at www.crimsoncloakpublishing.com. Be sure to use discount code 3 for 5 at the checkout. Good on any ebooks $3.99 or less. You still need to pay the sales tax. Good for the month of November. Check it out, folks. Have a good week. I'll see you here in this same spot next week for the next edition of In the Spotlight. Till then, have a good week and remember to pass a smile along. This is Cynthia McGregor. Bye now.
You have been listening to In the Spotlight with your host, Cynthia McGregor, brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing. For a wide variety of books for both adults and children in print, ebook, and audio formats, join us every Tuesday at the same time as In the Spotlight brings you interesting guests to entertain and enlighten you. I'm Carly McCracken. On behalf of Crimson Cloak Publishing, thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll join us again next week.